Hello, everybody. Welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. And as always, I also publish on Rumble and on Patreon for access support. Any kind of updates I usually go about on Twitter X. Just a quick reminder for complete gameplay series I already have here on playlist on the main page. Um, Probably next week I may be able to start doing some new gaming series. I'm trying to record stuff to have a sufficient backlog so I can have a consistent um, production and publishing right there. But yeah, when it's ready, I will let you know. So let's go to the news. Officially, the 9060 XT is officially announced. The AMD is going to make basically the same mistake with the 5060 Ti, 8 and 60 gigabytes. Even though it seems the 9060 XT 16 gigabyte variant supposedly is going to be the better one, of course, 8 gigabytes at this point in time. Again, we've been seeing a lot of reviews. Got Hardware Unboxed that did the 5060 review. I'm not sure if I brought that yesterday. I will leave their review on the links on the description below. Basically, it's the same thing of in terms of performance around about the 3070 or a 4060 Ti, 8 gigabytes, I think, if not mistaken. Supposedly, this new one from AMD, RDNA 4, Navi 44 chip, 16 gigabytes. It's the only one, according to the first party information. Again, take it with a huge grain of salt. This information is the better option here. Supposedly around $350 MSRP, advisable MSRP, because again, with the prices that we're seeing here, it doesn't seem to be the mainstay in terms of MSRP, but we'll have to wait and see. It starts availability on June 5th. If not mistaken, reviewers will, contrary to NVIDIA, will have around supposedly a week and a half or so to do the reviews. They will have access to the drivers, to some samples to make their own reviews. But according to the first party information, this 9060 XT 16 gigabytes should, in terms of performance, be around kind of the same of this 5060 Ti 16 gigabytes. In terms of parity of performance, round about there. They make the claim that, again, given the price that they're trying to go about here, it's basically the 15% gaming performance per dollar across around their own 30 games that they tested. But it's, again, with a 5060 Ti 8 gigabytes. So there is that, mainly because of the VRAM. Again, the 8 gigabyte, especially on 1440p, VRAM leakage. Again, it's not good. Even the 5060 just gets destroyed. Everything that needs to creep up a little bit more in terms of graphic settings or even trying to use their own technologies can go about and be destroyed there. Let's see. Again, always wait for independent reviewers. I think I need to reiterate, start reiterating and advising everybody. Don't trust previews. Again, as we saw with the 5060, the previews are always skewed. They have a lot of preconditions to be made because there is this exclusive thing here with the previews, and the test settings are completely skewed to try and bring up the best of supposedly the best that that product has. But this one seems to be the better one from the lower end or the entry level, even though it's not $300, what I think should have been. We have the what we should not even consider, which is 8 gigabytes, the 9060 XT 8 gigabytes at $300 MSRP. I think, and I'm starting to feel that again, 8 gigabytes cards can play 1080p games, but with a lot of asterisks there. I think to be considered an entry level, the price has to be in conformity with that. Again, $300 for the GPU starts to creep a little bit on the budget side of things in terms of those considerations. At this price point, if you can arrange something with a little bit extra VRAM and previous generation, probably is a better option at this point in time, considering there is not a lot of $300 new GPUs, and the ones that they are, I don't think that they justify themselves. Um, we'll have to wait and see. Again, the 9060 XT has the full PCI Express 5.0 at 16 lanes, so full bandwidth there. Another issue with the 5060, it only has 8 lanes available. So even when there is that RAM leakage or VRAM leakage, it completely destroys the game in terms of performance. In those situations, here will be again with 16 gigabytes. There is plenty to play with around in terms of that buffer of VRAM. Um, we'll have to wait and see. It seems to be a good. Everybody seems to be relatively excited if this maintains at this price point. Again, people and independent reviewers taking in consideration the price and performance of the current lineup or the newer lineup from NVIDIA and AMD. Again, considering the price, MSRP prices specifically, or around about there, 9070 XT is the way to go if you want 4K and 1440p games. And then I will assume probably the 9060 XT 16 gigabytes will be the mid entry to mid range. So it will probably play 1080p pretty well, and entry level 1440p or roundabouts. I think for the 1440p, if there is going to be reached on the international market between the 9070 or the 9070 GRE, I think it is a decent option for 1440p, considering the price there. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how this stacks up in terms of the newer lineups. There seems to be some hopeful news coming from NVIDIA regarding the super refresh stuff there, the mid-range, the 50 from the 5080s and the such. But again, it's rumors. There is no official confirmation. And again, even if you manage to get around those at this moment in time, even with software support from NVIDIA, it's been a shit show. Constant hot patches, trying to fix one thing, then completely destroys another thing. So far, AMD seems to be the most reliable, I'd say, at this point in time. Yeah, there is one thing with adrenaline stuff there, which I need to do some testing to confirm this. It seems that there is an issue with Windows and adrenaline software driver stuff there. It seems that Windows updates force itself and in terms of prioritizing the drivers for the GPU, so the Windows side of things, it seems to overwrite the adrenaline software in that sense in terms of drivers, which can lend itself to some issues. I'm not sure which one to blame. I think because Windows is just trying to force itself and override those adrenaline stuff there. I need some, I think, some better communication between AMD and Windows regarding that should be enough. I tried some steps there to avoid that Windows thinks that the drivers of my GPU are out of date, because I had some issues with some games, specifically Clair Obscur. I need to test that game, and also recently Death Stranding. After I played the game, I didn't have any issues with Death Stranding, but after played the out of nowhere, the adrenaline software just shuts down, so reboots itself. And after I did the tweaks that I did, it seems to be okay. It doesn't restart the software itself, so shuts down, and then I have to manually open on the menu to restart the program there from adrenaline. I think there is something happening there that might lend itself to other issues in other games. I'm not sure. I didn't test that thoroughly, but it's something that I noticed in terms of trying to research my issues that I have specifically with Clair Obscur. I'm not sure if it's something that it can be fixed with that. It's not a solution that I saw around the Reddits and searching and Googling. I had to get around with some DeepSeek and ChatGPT, trying to fine tune the search on the web in instances and be very specific on that issue. But yeah, interesting stuff there. Probably I'll do a video. I don't know. I will have to do some testing before I make sure that it is something that it can fix any kind of issues. But yeah, other than that, Adrenaline does work pretty well. I don't have any complaints. I don't have crashes all of a sudden in the majority of the cases, except again for Claire Obscure. Again, it's a newer game. I'm not sure how that can be patched out through the developers, or there needs to be like a not fix on the AMD side of things in terms of drivers. But yeah, a long short story. That's about it. We'll have to wait for the 5th of June to see if the 9060 XT does really perform what it and delivers what it's promising. Other than that, we have also some news regarding FSR technology. They are at this moment FSR4 again. There is no updates if it's going to be able to be retrocompatible with older GPUs. So at this moment, only RDNA 4 GPUs can support this, but they are working now also on what they call FSR Redstone, which is kind of trying to be in parity with NVIDIA regarding machine learning for path tracing and all of that jazz there. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Again, I think they need to focus a little bit more on FSR4 adoption rate in terms of games. They announced they're going to be, it's not here, but by the, I think, June, they will also be ramping up the adoption rate of FSR4 in 60 games total, which is not that bad given that when they released FSR4, it was only available in 30 games. Again, supposedly you can use it on the driver level if the game already supported FSR 3.1. But again, it's only available for RDNA 4 GPUs, so the 9000 series GPUs. But interesting enough, I think this will not be able to be available, this Redstone stuff on older GPUs, because again, AI, machine learning, and all that jazz in terms of AI capabilities, GPUs before FSR, sorry, GPUs before RDNA4 don't have a lot of that. So there needs to be, if any, way of doing that to use the stream processor, so the normal processing power of the GPU, to try to leverage this algorithm, which I think it can be a strain in terms of the performance of the game itself. But it's interesting to see that they are going about neural radiance caching. Again, it's kind of that texture compacting, the texture stuff that it's not zipping. Now I forgot the word that I wanted to use. Compress and decompress stuff there. There is the machine learning regeneration, which is basically ray reconstruction, and then kind of working also on frame generation stuff there. I'm not sure if they're going to try and implement for multi-frame generation. Again, it's a very niche thing from my point of view, but supposedly they will start bringing up this in the second half of this year, which is something interesting to see. And hopefully this can also start being leveraging on the next gen UDNA architecture and framework, being with, I will assume, the next CPUs from AMD that will try to leverage this UDNA, maybe in conjunction with the GPU itself, can work around this using machine learning. Again, I don't know, but it's something to think about there. But yeah, as they said, no RDNA or RDNA2 support for this FSR version here, being 4 or this Redstone stuff there. We'll have to wait and see how, if there is a way of going about and using this on RDNA 3 and older GPUs there. Then in terms of games, we got again the usual shenanigans in terms of announcing or trying to perceive players as sales. Bethesda Softworks, which it's under the umbrella of Microsoft and Xbox games, in which basically is above the ID id Software. They announced they have 3 million players on Doom Dark Ages, which shows that the game is not selling that well. Even though the game is on Game Pass. Again, they also go about and said it was 7 times quicker than the previous entry, Doom Eternal, to get to this milestone. Again, when when Doom Eternal launch, it was not on Game Pass, so it's a little bit confusing what they're trying to make it out of it. Because before the acquisition of Bethesda and all the studios associated with that at the time from Microsoft, Doom Eternal launched around 1 year before, and then it was integrated on Game Pass. Again, I'm not sure the 7 times is after the game entered in the Game Pass there. Again, if you launch a game already in Game Pass, the adoption of players interacting with the game is going to be higher than, for example, with Doom Eternal. It had like a year or so of having that time frame to sell copies. And again, if people already have that game, even if when it enters on Game Pass, again, there are going to be less interactions with that game on Game Pass. But yeah, a little bit confusing here what they're trying to do here. But again, not 3 million sales, that's for sure. It's 3 million players that interact with the game. Even though interestingly enough, not funny, but interestingly, this game has pretty good positive feedback, around 80-ish, 80, between 85 to 90% positive feedback from everybody that played the game and or bought the game. The reviews seem pretty good. Again, I think it's a conjunction of certain things. The fact that I think they probably, again, I didn't see video reviews, but from what I've been reading, it seems they tweak a little bit too much the core gameplay of what people were expecting from Doom and Doom Eternal. I'm not sure if that shield pairing a mechanic might have slowed down a little bit or changed enough for people being a little bit reticent to try out the game. Um, and also the fact that the price point, I think $70 is a little bit too much, because I think the game is not that doesn't offer that amount of value there with the $70. I think at least this mainly these two things might have build up for people not buying the game, and probably the fact that it's coming on Game Pass. People will be more willing to try out the game on Game Pass, and if they like it, probably will buy the game. Or because the game is a little bit so different, they probably will experience the game through Game Pass and will never bother to buy the game, which again will reflect on the sales of the game itself. Again, it's a little bit confusing. Seems that the people that play the game like the game, but again, the sales are not reflecting the overall positivity around this game, which is very interesting to say the least. Then you got kind of a confirmation that Stellar Blade sequel is coming, and supposedly before 2027. This is kind of the earnings call, or company's latest investor relation presentation chart there. Yeah, it seems that the sequel regarding Celebrate might come 2020 before 2027, so supposedly next year. Again, I don't trust this much, because the game just came out on 2024. I think they were not expecting this much of success of this IP, so I assume they weren't already producing on the sequel there. And they are also working on what kind of a new project, which is Project Witches, which is supposedly going to be a different IP. So I'm not sure if that studio is that big enough to work on this amount of projects at the same time. But yeah, the good thing is at the moment the PC version will come next month. They supposedly are still working with PlayStation to see about that 130 countries availability, or not being available in 100, not countries but regions on Steam. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully they can convince PlayStation, because even though you don't need the sign in on PlayStation Network to play the game on Steam, there is still this region lock, which is annoying to say the least. And it will reflect on the sales of the game itself, because people were waiting about this game for PC. Not sure if it was a little bit more about the mods, but I think the game is interesting enough just by the game mechanics themselves, as an action RPG-ish kind of a game, to sell very well, and the fact that it is blocked in 130 regions, which are the same regions that supposedly PlayStation doesn't operate. It's annoying to say the least. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. Again, there is still the de novo stuff there, but supposedly they managed to tune the game to be perform very well, even with the de novo on, we'll have to wait and see how that goes in terms of reviews for the PC port of this game. But yeah, supposedly the game is so good that they are at least in pre-production for a sequel for sure. It's been basically almost a year since this game came out. So I think we might see, maybe next year we will see probably an announcement there. I'm not sure in terms of story and everything how a sequel can be done because I don't know anything about the story of Stellar Blade. But yeah, seems something interesting to keep up with. Then we got Blades of Fires. I covered intermittently this game. It seems to have some interesting stuff here, which revolves around a little bit on you being forging your upgrade your weapons, kind of a Souls-like kind of a combat there. The price seems to be fair on this one, around $60. But yeah, it's the only it's not even negative thing, especially from this review, which is kind of in line with the reviews that I give a quick glance here. It's the premise is kind of derivative of God of War from 2018, probably a story of revenge or something like that. But it seems that the combat is pretty decent. And even the mainstay here, which is the weapon crafting and creation and tweaking that they implemented here on this game, seems to have good visuals, devious Souls-like level design where areas wrap around themselves, which is also a good thing here. Inventive and fun combat system that uses all your face buttons for attacking, and polish and tight gameplay with a steady flow, which is always good in this kind of games that focus on combat there. Yeah, it seems to be pretty good. I will try to see if I can get more reviews to see if it is consistent. But yeah, this game seems to be pretty interesting, to say the least. And then lastly, we got here these people living in another planet. The case of Randy Pitchfork. Um, there is again, I don't know, I don't remember exactly. There was some shenanigans happening with Gearbox a few years ago. I don't remember exactly what, but Randy Pitchford was involved in that. I don't know if it was allegations of some sort. Again, I don't know, like issues on the workplace or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. Um, but yeah, this guy really seems to be living in another planet. There, I think he did a thing. He was enthusiastic about Borderlands 4 coming to Nintendo Switch 2. Again, for myself, I never cared too much about Borderlands games. Seems a little bit too much cartoony. The humor, even though it's like crudish and tries to be funny, it doesn't connect with me that much. But yeah, the fact that he was trying to ramp up the idea that Borderlands 4 will be coming to Nintendo Switch 2. There was a person that supposedly liked the franchise and just made a comment there saying, "Ready, this game better not be $80 again," because mainly of the Switch 2 games being at least $80 to $90 at his base game stuff there without the other editions there, because Borderlands they only has like a base price point, and then they have like they release several content there that just creeps up in terms of prices. And I think they also had the DLC skins and all those shenanigans there. um, and he continues to say, "Don't take that risk. A lot of games are not going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase of price tag. You are the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher." And then the reply is a little bit out of touch, to say the least. And then he says, A, not my call. B, if you're really a fan, you will find a way to make it happen. My local game store, then he just tries to justify this. My local game store at Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 1991 when I was just at a high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen. Again, this is a little bit out of touch regarding this kind of reply and trying to justify something with his unique case there. Again, I think that people that like the IP and will not be able to buy the game for whatever reason, or don't feel that $80 is justifiable, basically they are not going to be a fan. So I think this game is not going to be very successful in terms of sales. I think this game will probably come out on Game Pass, if not mistaken. And if it comes again, we will start to see the same things with million players interacting with the game, which by itself it's very interesting. I don't know if they consider when they announced the game stuff is maybe it's like Netflix. There is a minimum of time that you need to interact with the game to count as a player playing the game. Probably 5 minutes. They considered that the game was played, and they put out there as a player interacting with the game. Again, I'm not sure by that, but yeah, this didn't went well. Cat Fair Dark here that comment this again. What a response, of course. If you're a real fan, it's an awful thing to use against someone. Again, trying to I don't know. Denigrate to a certain degree the your base customer. They said to it's like a little bit like the iPhone stuff there. If all of a sudden the iPhones instead of $1,000 cost 1,500, and people say this is too expensive, and I said if you really like Apple and if you are a fan of Apple, you will find a way to spend that extra dollars on that product there. And yeah, people are not liking it, and this will backlash by the simple fact that again, this is not the way to approach. I think again they could still put the game $80, saying, "Okay, this is not my call to make. I cannot have any influence there," and probably try to justify the price in other ways, to saying, "Okay, we are doing our best. We will, I don't know, tease out that will be extra content being pushed through the base game version, something in those lines, or trying to justify that the game will have, I don't know, game systems or content enough that people will, or replayability enough that can justify the $80. Again, just by saying if you're a real fan, you'll find a way. It's just making enemies out of customers. But yeah, the overall replies again from this article again, and I will assume it's kind of a plurality of replies here. Even people that supposedly are fans, they said no, this is not a decent response, and people will also saying that okay, you can put it at $80 in 2 years time when the game is 50% off or 70% off, then I will consider in buying this on a sale, and then you will not get your $80 as you think. And as Mongol usually has, in a majority of cases, specifically on the gaming industry, uh, usually has some common sense takes. Usually, not always. I cannot agree with everything that he says, but I think he's a good reference point, because I think he reflects to a certain degree what the majority of people think, especially on the gaming industry side of things. But yeah, his point, I think, can reflect a lot of what people are thinking, which is the funny thing is that this is true for many game franchises. Let's say Final Fantasy, From Software games, Baldur's Gate, but I don't think it's true for Borderlands. After watching all of the trailers and gameplay footage, I don't see how another mediocre millennial humor looter shooter is worth $80. And expanding on that again, for example, we have Baldur's Gate 3 that for I think $60 offer a completely full experience, which is a lot to say. Even From Software, if you buy Elden Ring, which is rarely on sale from software games, they tend to provide a full experience. It doesn't feel incomplete. Even in the example of Elden Ring, if you never had the Shadow of the Earth Tree launch, Elden Ring by itself feels like a complete experience. And the fact that Shadow of the Tree seems like Elden Ring 1.5, let's say, because it adds so much without degrading the experience of the base game. This kind of games that try to give more value for the dollar that they are trying to sell their games for, again, it can't be justified because there is a pedigree, there is an history, there is a certain consistency of these developers of trying to deliver the best that they can for a full experience within the price point, which even then they don't charge $80 or $70. Usually it's still the $60 there, and there seems to be no indication that they're going to feel or try to go up. for this price point. We'll have to wait and see. At least that's my perception. But yeah, this didn't go well. There is a comical case here, um, saying that you will buy, and the justification is games average $60 in 2005. That's $97 today, according to inflation rates. We are still getting games at the bargain, $80 for unlimited entertainment. Again, that's an opinion, because the game is not even out, so you're not sure how many unlimited entertainment is. But each to their own. It costs more than a movie and a dinner for two that lasts 2 to 4 hours. Again, it's an opinion. Like any kind of, also to a certain point, every review is an opinion, which is tries to be the most impartial opinion possible. But yeah, for me, and I was never interested in Borderlands IP, at least not enough to play the games, even though there's some stuff here that might seems interesting what they try to do here. But again, was never something that I was trying to get around and play. But yeah, this is not a good look for Gearbox. I think um, uh, I'm not sure how well in terms of financially Gearbox is, because I think even the movie that they did, Borderlands, was a flop. Was not a good movie to start off, and then they didn't sell enough tickets, I think, to make it even. I'm not sure how much Gearbox had to invest there. But yeah, Gearbox doesn't publish too much games there. And that this is not the first time that Randy Pitchford is in some controversies in the last years here. But yeah, we're going to wait and see when this game comes out, if it's going to justify the $80, which to a certain degree, I don't think it will. Maybe again, if they stick with the $60, and then because they're going to be extra content, I don't know, down the pipeline, and they can try to justify the increasing of that DLC, maybe. But I think they should stick with the $60 and try not to go with the flow of $80, and try to arrange ways of not denigrating people, saying that you're not a fan if you don't have $80. Again, it's the worst possible way of going about it. There are worse ways, but again, it's a very bad take for your customer base to seems to be worried mainly about the quality of game not being justifiable to pay $80 with to start off. And you just say, okay, I don't care if you don't have $80, you're not fan enough for the IP itself. But yeah, this is what it is at this moment in time. I'm going to wrap up with some gaming deals. We still have Baldur's Gate 3. Again, as you can see, 20% off, even at full price was $60, give or take. It's now 20% off. So again, full experience, no DLC shenanigans with this one. Game of the year when it came out in 2023. Then we got Bioshock the Collection, interesting trilogy, pretty solid. We got the two remastered versions for the first two games. Then you got Bioshock Infinite and all the extra content associated with it, 80% off. Then you got Cyberpunk. Again, I think the way to play is Ultimate Edition. It's got the Phantom Liberty that adds a lot of value there from the reviews that came out. Got August Legacy, 75% off. Again, it seems pretty good. It's one of those that I will try one of these days for sure. Then you got King Arthur's Knight's Tale. Again, it's kind of a twist on the Arthur mythology there. Very interesting turn-based combat, isometrical view, tactical RPG, all that jazz seems pretty good. 70% off. Then you got some other packs here and there. Yeah, very cheap here in terms of how. And again, very positive feedback since it came out. It's an older game, 2022, but it seems to be pretty good. It's one of those that are willing to try out one of these days. Then you got Midnight Suns, again, step of approval, especially at this price point, 80% off. I did a gaming series on this one. If you're curious about it, you can check out the first couple episodes to have a sense of what this game has to offer. But yeah, I do recommend this one. Then you got Pacific Drive, about a day or so until the offer is off, 50% off. Then you got Red Dead Redemption 2, 75% off on the base game. And then lastly, we got The Witcher 3 still on sale with the 10th anniversary here. 90% off, but I do recommend the complete edition, Blood and Wine, and Hearts of Stone. Again, as usual, first time playing vanilla as much as you can. I can recommend some texture packs or visual mods there to enhance the visual side of things. And then on the second and other playthroughs, I do recommend starting tweaking with mods for gameplay purposes and all that jazz and extra content that is being added through mods there. But yeah, I'll wrap up here for today with a plug on my Patreon for access port. Again, the access port is more in line for me at this moment in time, trying to get a better storage solution so I can have backups of stuff that I do for my clients, and of course some extra space for the videos that I do for the channel. And with all that said, hope you have a full day. I will see you in the next one. So until then, Kunami Master out.